Us is the newest film by Jordan Peele, and I thought it was good. I don't think it's in any way comparable to Get Out, but it's a good film nonetheless. Now, the thing that made Get Out so special is that it was a triple header. It was a comedy, it was a horror movie, and it was a social commentary all wrapped up in one bundle. Us is not that. It tries to be, but ultimately it just ends up being a pretty sophisticated slasher film. Now, there are some social commentary elements in there, and Jordan Peele goes off on everyone. He goes off on socialism. He goes off on America not committing to its own problems and facing them. But one thing he does praise is the American nuclear family, which I personally found to be the most intriguing part of the social commentary here. He truly champions the American family. There's no other way of putting it. Not only does he show their great camaraderie and that their compassion and their unity can really cause amazing things if they all set their mind to it, but he also shows the individualist nature of each of them. He shows them each overcoming their own flaws, facing their own fears in order to overcome their doppelgangers. And I thought that was truly incredible because he strikes a brilliant balance of what the American family is. Independence of each member, but also a united front willing to take on anything. This social commentary wasn't nearly as stirring as the stuff he had on white liberals in the current awkward state of racial tensions in America, but it was still pretty damn good. And then we get to comedy. This film is not nearly as much of a comedy as Get Out is. And that's because there's not a lot of awkward racial moments here. Sure, there's one on the beach between the black and the white family, but besides that, we only have Winston Duke's character cracking jokes here. And this actually causes more problems than it would have otherwise fixed. The thing is here, Winston Duke is one of the main characters, and in Get Out, the main comedic character was a supporting character because he's supposed to be. He's a caricature, and it's really hard to have a caricature as a main character because we can't identify with them. None of us would be as charismatic as the father here. He is so lighthearted, he brings such brevity to every situation, and it's just not realistic in the slightest. And having him as a main character, in my opinion, hurts the film more than it helps it. Yeah, his jokes are funny, but some of them, even on a first viewing, are pretty dated, and it'll just get worse over time. Yeah, he's an awkward dad, and I get that that works for the first part of the film, but when we're having these villains come in and cause havoc, we can't have him constantly cracking jokes throughout the film. In Get Out, we had it in little bursts. We had a lot of it, but we had it in little bursts here. Every now and again, the main character would call the guy up, and that would be it. But here, it's this constant thing throughout the film, and it makes the tone very choppy. This film isn't even as scary as Halloween 2018 because it fails to commit to its tone. And this film is supposed to be gruesome and dark and bloody, but when I'm having one-liners thrown at me left and right, it's hard to take the film seriously. But with that said, Winston Duke's acting is great here. He has a stellar comedic timing, and he still brings a foolish nature to his doppelganger character. And might I just say, the acting for all of these characters is awesome. Lupita Nyong'o is not only the perfect main character because of the fact she is solemn, she doesn't have a lot to say, so we can put ourselves in that situation, but also, she's the scariest part of the film as her doppelganger. She's truly terrifying, her mannerisms, her voice, everything about her is excellent. The kids don't have a lot of leeway as their actual characters, but as their doppelgangers, they have a lot of room to act and show how creepy they can be, and my gosh, are they creepy. They easily could have been stupid and silly, but instead, they are very creepy, and some of the best horror movie villains of the decade. And I was thinking, the villains are so good, what's wrong with this film? And it really comes down to the character work here. Yes, Jordan Peele understands the family dynamic in the current time period so well. The dad is super awkward, he likes to bring comedy to everything. The mom takes everything super seriously, she's really concerned about the well-being of the kids. The daughter is always glued to the phone. But at the same time, he doesn't make a lot of these characters compelling. The son barely talks. That's always a big no-no for me because we can't really see why we should like him or why we should root for him in the first place. And the daughter is glued to her phone. So it's like the same thing with the son, only she talks a little more and is a little more charismatic. But then, once we get involved with her and we're really rooting for her, people were clapping for her during the film, she is barely involved with the climax of the film. And that's the same thing with the dad. It's all about the mother and the son, but the son we don't care about at all because he doesn't talk. Now, granted, the mother is the best character in the film and is practically a perfect horror movie protagonist. And that's because we get to inflect everything upon her. She is afraid, but at the same time, she overcomes. She shows courage, and it's like how we would all like to react. We would all be scared if in this situation, but we'd all like to think that we would overcome and fight for our families. But at the same time, when you have 3 other characters of the 4 that are not that interesting, she just can't carry this movie. And yeah, Lupita Nyong'o, she's the main star, but the main guy behind this is Jordan Peele, and his influence is written all over this film, and not exactly in the best way. Get Out had one of my favorite horror movie opening shots ever, because it set up everything about the film. It set up the premise, it set up the tension and the horror that he was going to create, and it also showed that he was going to make a statement. It was a long shot similar to the Hitchcock era, where everything was just so stellar when it came to tension. Everything was so perfect, and he wanted to bring that era back. Here, he really fails at bringing that in the opening moments of the film. The first 15 to 20 minutes here are brutally slow. And a lot of the flashbacks in the opening of the film contribute nothing at the time. When I was watching it, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be really important at the end of the film. And guess what? They were referred back to at the end of the film. But in the moment, they were boring and meant nothing. And I can only imagine how boring they are on second viewings. And the film gets better, it truly does. There's a lot of inferring that there's something more sinister going on, something more sinister is about. This is all accompanied by the introduction of the family, which is excellent. Everyone in the theater knew shit was about to go down, but then it doesn't. We have a 2 to 3 minute monologue from the doppelganger mother, which makes no sense because Jordan Peele is such an inventive writer, and he somehow thought it was okay to have this boring as hell monologue that tells the background of the family all in one go. He couldn't have somehow implemented that more smoothly throughout the film, and with the interjections by the comedic father, I just thought that this was a horrible scene that really chopped up the tone of the film. And we constantly have to have the father ruining the scenes here. But then, once we get to the new household, I'm not going to say anything, we have the mother and the 2 children fighting. And that part was awesome, because we have no comedic moments from the father, no dabs, no dated jokes he's going to make here. No, it's all them, and it's pure slasher movie magic. And it's all enhanced by the excellent score, not just that scene, but in general, by Michael Abels. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. This score is so unique, and I've always found as though horror movie soundtracks have to sound foreign because we're dealing with the unknown here. So the score has to be incomprehensible to the audience. It has to be weird, odd, something we don't fully understand. And I felt as though this score did wonders in that category. It was abstract and I loved it, but at the same time, it just can't save the film. After we have that awesome sequence with just the mother and the kids, then it goes to the climax, and this is where I'm getting into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen this film, go and watch it and come back. So the father and the daughter are removed, and the father, that's fine with me because he wasn't contributing anything great. But the daughter I would have liked to see more of, and I don't care about the son because he's who's in jeopardy here. But Lupita Nyong'o, she goes to confront her doppelganger. Now, this confrontation makes no sense. The doppelganger dodges every hit, but then at the very end gets stabbed by the simplest of maneuvers that was probably slower by some of the ones thrown earlier. But I can look past that. What I can't look past is the plot twist here, which is just atrocious. This was horrible. Basically what happens is you think that there's the mother and the doppelganger, but really, when the mother was younger, the doppelganger attacked her and swished. And so, the actual grown-up version, the doppelganger, is actually the normal version, and the normal version is really the doppelganger. But this does not change the plot in the slightest. The mother is still the mother no matter what. Even though she was a doppelganger when she was very little, she grew up normal, she's normal now, she raised a family, and that's it. There's nothing to be, afraid of. There's nothing chilling about that. There's nothing that really changes the plot there. The mother is still the mother. The doppelganger is still evil. There's nothing to change here. It doesn't change who led this whole revolution in the first place. Nothing changes in the end. And I thought that was just a really anticlimactic way of ending the film and left a really sour taste in my mouth. And so when it comes to my verdict on Us, I thought that there were some good moments in this film. I thought that the social commentary, no, it's not as good as Get Out, but it's pretty damn good. I thought the comedy, mainly detrimental, but still had its moments at sometimes. I thought the performances were great, even though most of the characters were pretty bad. Lupita Nyong'o's character was pretty damn good, though. And I thought the middle part was a really competent and well-made slasher film. However, we still have all those moments with Winston Duke's character ruining it. And I, of course, thought the beginning of the film was rather boring, and the end was pretty anticlimactic. So in the end, I'd give this film like a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a good movie. I recommend that you see it. But it certainly isn't the film that everyone's talking it up to be. But I'm just me. You do you. Go see Us. 7 out of 10. Goodbye.